Hey YouTube, it's Creepy Crawler. Hey, today we are working on a Suzuki Aerio. We're doing the alternator. We're going to jump right into it. Basically, this is just a quick, not really a how-to, but just kind of a brief overview. I try to cover most of the steps, but I'll warn you, my video footage was not the greatest because I really need to get this car back on the road. All right, step one, we got to get the cover off the alternator. There's a black plastic cover. Let's see, get a good light down there. I'll show you where it's at. Here's your air intake tube. Here's your intake throttle body. It's the alternator's right down here. There's a bolt that sticks out this way, so we're gonna take it off. Bolt number 2, right there. You see the plastic cover. We're taking off the bolt that takes off the cover. We just grab the cover out, pull it out of the road, put it over here. Alright, so took bolts out of the oil pump. There's one on the back. You just can't see anything on this car, I'm sorry guys, but there's one on the back of the oil pump down towards the bottom of it. And there's one right here on the top. And then there's one on the bottom, which you have to get to through these holes. It's actually easiest to get to the top ones through these holes too. See these holes right here? Just stick your socket, everything through there, get to the sockets. They come out pretty easy. You definitely need to take out the air box. So I took off intake tube. There's a sensor plugged into the air box. Then there's a bolt here, bolt down, well, down there, and then there's a tube that goes in the side. You just unbolt the 2 bolts and then slide it out, and you got to wiggle it around and jiggle it around, but you can get it out. You can see it's over there on the bench. So take off all these bolts on the power steering pump. Then we get the power steering pump hopefully out of the road enough to get the top bolt loose to the alternator without pulling the lines, but we'll see. All right, so that did work. I had to pull the reservoir up. There's a little catch here, and then it just comes straight up. All the lines are still attached. I took the power steering pump loose, but all the lines are still attached, haven't been touched at all. And if you can see right down there, right beside the pulley, which the pulley is movable, so we can get a wrench in there. There's the top. See if we can get to it. That's the top alternator bolt. So I'm going to get a wrench, pull that off, and then start working on the bottom side. So next step, I need to start taking the bolts out of the back of the alternator. Before you do those, you have to unhook your battery cables. If not, it's going to jump off an arc. I always unhook the negative. Make sure you get it here because as you can see, these cables have memory in them. They want to go back to where they have been forever, so it's going to keep trying to come back in touch. So make sure you get it clear down out of the road. Stuff it down in there. Alright, next step, take off the power wire, the big power wire going to your alternator. I'm sorry guys, you can't see it, but then there's a plug-in that plugs into the back of your alternator. It has like a pinch. You have to pinch it from the top. They're usually really stuck. I assume this thing's been on here for the length of the car. It looks original. So I'm going to get a pair of pliers and be gentle and just try to keep wiggle until I get the plug out of the back of it. Alright, so next thing I did was took out this bolt and then took loose this bolt here running vertically up into the mounting boss here on the side of the motor. Once I took those 2 bolts out, the whole thing drops out. Now alternatively, you could also take out this Torx head, but I wasn't sure if there would be enough room for the alternator to drop down and out without taking this bracket off. I figured that's probably why they made it that way, so I went ahead and took it off. It's just a couple more bolts if nothing else, and they weren't too bad to get to. Alright, so the next problem I ran into is I can get the alternator to here, but I can't get it to come out from the motor, and I've tried to go up through the top a couple different ways, and I've tried to come out the bottom, twisted it all around. It's just not going to do it. But I'm really close here. So what I'm going to do is take loose this motor mount bolt here, pull this bolt out, and then I'll be able to jack the motor up, and I'm going to push it forward a little bit with the jack too, and that should give me just enough there. Alright, you can see I got this bolt out. The key to getting these out easily is just jack up with the jack just enough to take the pressure off of it. That way they'll spin right out just like that one. If you jack up too high, it binds on the top. Jack up too little, binds on the bottom, or vice versa, but you know what I mean. Alright, so continuing on, to get the motor mount plate off, I had to take off 2 bolts over there, or yeah, 2 bolts over there, and bolt and a nut over here, and then this is a shorter bolt than those other 2. So now we got this out of the road. Maybe. Now we have to undo this. There's a little electrical connector here. You just push him and pop him off. He's right there. So get that out of the road and see if we can't get this scooted forward enough somehow to get the alternator out of there. Alright, well, finally some success. So what I had to do to get this out was I took that mount off like I showed you, dropped the motor all the way down to it's basically binding up. The jack's there, but it's not really supporting much. Basically the motor's hanging down as much as it can. And then I had to put a pry bar in between right here, just like that, just like so, and pry the motor forwards. And I was just barely able to get it out, and it pretty much has to be in this orientation here, with the metal part out towards the top, or out towards the back. Alrighty guys, I know that wasn't the world's best how-to video, but everything I found online said that you had to pull the power steering pump off, which, you know, might be easier for some people, but I hate messing with all that fluid, getting it everywhere, getting it all over the alternator, and all that other stuff you have to deal with that. So I wanted to try to see if I could get the alternator out without taking off those lines, and you can. So it come off, it can go back in the same way. I'm actually having it at a shop getting it rebuilt because they wanted about 200 bucks for a new one at AutoZone, and I have a local rebuilder that's been doing it for years. He does a good job, and he only charges about 80 bucks. So I went that route. He's just a little bit slow, but basically if you can get the alternator off, it's just going to be the exact opposite going back on. Hope it helped you. If you can, share this video around, throw it up on some forums if you're a member of them, get it around so other people at least know one of the options of getting the alternator off. I couldn't find anything on it other than just a couple real short videos. It was just like people actually, they had pulled all the stuff off and were grabbing the alternator out of there. But yeah, if you like it, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, it helps me out a lot. Shoot up a comment and let me know how it went for you. Thanks guys.